to really understand Bittensor, you have to look at it in a different way. You should not consider it a crypto or AI project. You should look at it as a planet. And that's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to use this metaphor of a rising planet of different cities to explain to you what Bittensor is all about. Because Bittensor is so much more than just a crypto project or just an AI project. There are many different definitions we can give about Bittensor, and I chose this one. So Bittensor is a digital network where people can create markets that reward useful work. And this is pretty vague, but that's the whole concept. Bittensor is pretty vague actually, and is very, very big actually. So another way to describe it is like it's a protocol that incentivizes almost any useful work. And again, this is very vague. But many people consider Bittensor to be just a decentralized AI protocol, which is partly correct because for a large part it is a decentralized AI protocol, but it's much more. And this is something for another video, but you have to keep this in mind because it's important to understand this if you really want to see the potential of Bittensor. So let's imagine a new global society developing on our planet. On the different continents, different cities are being constructed as we speak. Some are still very small, some are already pretty big. And each city focuses on a different task or business. Like some cities focus on transport, like the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It's very important for the Netherlands because it has a huge port. Other cities, they become like the financial center of the country. Others focus, I don't know, on healthcare or whatever, you know. And all different cities use the same currency, which is called Tau. So instead of the dollar, for example, which is the world's reserve currency on planet Earth at this moment, on planet Bittensor, it's Tau. Those cities are called subnets in Bittensor. And they all specialize on something. Some focus on compute, others on fraud detection, and others on data or prediction markets, for example. And the better a subnet performs, the more it grows, and the more talent and capital is attracted to the subnet. And here you can see several examples of existing subnets on Bittensor at this moment. So there's a subnet which is called Zeus, focusing on weather prediction. Another one is called Hippias. It focuses on decentralized data storage on the blockchain. Others are like Red Team and ENS focus basically on cybersecurity and fraud detection. Then you have Video or Vidio, I don't know how to pronounce this one. And it's about video compression, which is a very, very big potential market. Like imagine Netflix. They have to store all the videos they host on their platform somewhere. And videos, of course, they are very big files. So you need a lot of storage. And this is very expensive. So if you are able to basically maintain the same quality of your video, but you're able to reduce the size of the file, you can actually save a lot of money. And this is what Vidio is trying to achieve. Then you have Templar, which is a decentralized model training. And there's many more. All cities use the same money, Tau. Salaries are paid in it, goods are priced in it, and it cannot be printed at will. So this is very different than the dollar. Like in our world, we have basically unlimited printing, like the central banks, like the European Central Bank or the Fed, they can create new money. Private banks can create new money as well. If you had like $10 56 years ago, right now your purchasing power would be like, I don't know, one, maybe two, something like that, $1 or $2 because of inflation. And why does this inflation happen? Because we add new liquidity by creating new money. This is actually why Bitcoin, one of the reasons why Bitcoin has become what it has become, because Bitcoin is has a capped supply of 21 million. So there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin in existence. And for millennials, like different civilizations have appreciated things like gold that don't have much inflation. Gold is pretty rare, meaning that it doesn't have that much inflation. Of course, compared to Bitcoin, there is still more inflation because every year miners find more gold. So your proportion of gold gets diluted every year. With Bitcoin, this is almost not the case at all at this moment in time. So this is very important to understand. And if you really want to understand why this is important, you have to understand Bitcoin. Otherwise, it feels pretty abstract. Tau functions like Bitcoin. There will only be 21 million Tau in existence, and every 4 years there's a halving. Its supply follows the fixed rules, basically the same as Bitcoin. And this currency connects the entire planet Bittensor, so it's crucial. And what's very, very important to understand is that the success of all these different subnets, of all these different cities, will be reflected in the value of Tau. So where does this energy, this money, this Tau come from? Well, the planet basically has a built-in energy source, and we call this emission. So every day, Tau is emitted by the Bittensor protocol. And so it's not paid by the company, it's part of the protocol itself. And it's kind of free money. And the network distributes this energy or this Tau across all the different cities. And cities compete for their share. So at this moment, the biggest subnet is Shoots, and it gets like 10% of all the emissions. So it means Shoots gets a pretty big amount of money, basically for free every day. And the lower ranking subnets, because at this moment there are about 128 subnets, and the lowest ranking subnets, they only get a fraction of all the Tau emissions, like 0.1% or so. It's almost nothing. So it's really, really advantageous to get more emissions because you can pay your miners. We'll have a look at miners later on, but you can pay basically your staff, you can pay your workers much more. So it's really, really useful to get more emissions. So every city or every subnet has a working population, and those consist of miners and validators. People, so miners, they produce goods and services. And you have to understand, anyone with an internet connection in the world, no matter where you live, what your background is, can become a miner on Bittensor. And those people, they do the actual work. So if a subnet needs to have access to a very good model, miners can basically create these models and they submit them. And then you have validators, which can be considered managers, like people who manage teams, who manage things in our real world. They actually score the output of the miners, they check the quality, and they coordinate. Good work gets rewarded, and poor work fades out. That's the objective. Validators are very important because without them, we don't know which miners actually produce useful work. So the city constantly measures itself. If the quality drops, the city weakens. Then there are stakers, and those are the investors basically of Planet Bittensor. So if you buy a Tau token, you become an investor because you can select cities you want to invest in. So imagine you really like Shoots or Yanes. You can basically choose to stake your Tau into the subnet. And this is actually very interesting because it means the market decides which subnets, which cities are most valuable. And so it's in the interest of each subnet to attract stakers. Every city gets emissions only as long as there is net Tau inflow. Meaning this, if no one likes the subnet slash city anymore, and no one stakes their Tau anymore, the subnet doesn't get any free Tau from the protocol. So it's hugely important for the subnets to attract stakers. They depend on it. Why would people basically stake their Tau into different subnets? Well, because their Tau can grow. It can basically gain interest. If you choose the right city, the right subnet, and the subnet doubles in price, your initial, say, 1 Tau investment has now become 2 tau. So it's a way for investors to earn interest, earn money. This is pretty technical and it's beyond the scope of this video, so I will make another video about how this works later on. The most important thing you have to memorize is this. The market determines which cities grow and which become ghost towns. If a city is not able to attract enough stakers, it just becomes a ghost town and it will die. It's that simple. Then the question, why build on Bittensor instead of just starting a normal startup in the real world? When you start a traditional startup, you have to raise capital. You have to find investors, which is pretty hard. You have to hire a team and you have to pay all these people money, even though you are not earning any money at all. With Bittensor, this is very different because there's this built-in reward engine, and as long as you manage to attract investors by presenting your plans to the world, you get instantly paid by the protocol. So there's no payroll obligation and there are incentives instead of salaries. Every tech company, at least, has one major cost, and this is R&D, research and development. Especially in cybersecurity, the work never ends because the attackers constantly update their strategy. So if you develop cybersecurity software, you also need to constantly update your product. Imagine Red Team or Yanes. These are both subnets on Bittensor that work on cybersecurity and fraud detection. Instead of hiring a large research team, let's say 20, 30 people that you have to pay, even though you are not generating any or much revenue at all because you're still a startup, you create an incentive environment and you let global participants, miners, compete to improve your product. And the protocol funds experimentation through emissions. So you don't pay these top miners, it's Bittensor who pays. And by the way, miners, who can be a miner? So this is also very important to understand. Many people can become miners, but because of the validators, only the best miners get rewarded. And to become a top miner, you have to be a pretty smart cookie. Many of these miners are, for example, ex-Google engineers or other big company engineers, like pretty smart people. So it's very, very interesting that as a subnet, you can basically let these people work for you for free. And the subnet or company only has to focus on filtering and integration. This is just a breakthrough in how work is organized. And this comes back to what I said in the beginning. It's much broader. Bittensor is much bigger than just AI. If you understand this, you understand its potential. Like, it's a different way of organizing work. Bittensor is like a planet of specialized digital cities with a shared currency connecting all of them with each other. Only useful work is rewarded, or at least that's the objective. It's a protocol Bittensor, so no central company is in control of it. And growth is determined mostly by performance of the subnets. If the subnets don't achieve anything, Bittensor also doesn't achieve anything. If the subnets achieve a lot, Bittensor achieves a lot. And the success of the subnets is automatically reflected in the success of the tau price. And this is a very, very interesting mechanism. And again, this is beyond the scope of this video, so I'll make another video about this topic later. And if you see this video, congratulations, because you're extremely early. Like those cities, infrastructure is being built as we speak. So those cities are really small at this moment, and they have a lot more room to grow. We are all going to be witnessing this expansion phase over the coming years. So I hope this video helped some of you understand Bittensor a little bit better. If you're really new to Bittensor, this video could have raised more questions than answers, but have a look at my website, discoverbittensor.com. There's a lot of content there, and maybe this helps you understand Bittensor even in more detail. And in future videos, I will dive deeper into these different topics that I mentioned today.